Great.
Cool. That was pretty loud. All right, guys. You got it. See my screen there? Yeah, cool. Wow, it looks really big on here compared to mine. Usually that's the problem, it's not big enough. All right, so what we'll do is kind of go through the basics of setting up your project, where to set it up. It's important to have a folder structure somewhere on your computer so that when you're developing websites or whatever the case is, you have some type of structure that makes it a little bit easier to follow. And so that way, if you upload it to GitHub and you're working in a team atmosphere or whatever, it's easy to trend it. I've seen people just set up like the file directly in the IDE and just write and save it wherever. And then what happens is when they forget about it and they go back to it, they can't find it. So important. So what I'll do is go to new Explorer. You can set up a new folder. So what I'll do is I'm using a Mac, so it's going to be a little different. So I'm going to just set up a new folder. I think I have a dev folder out here. So I'm actually just going to set up a new one. And I'll just call it class. I'll just call it CMPS 262 underscore. All right. So I set it up on my computer first. I'm just going to choose open folder. I'm going to documents, that folder right there that I just set up, open it. So now I have exit out of that. And now I have this folder on my computer. This way it allows me to have a starting position. I can always continue to this each week. In retrospect to that, I am going to make a new folder. And the reason I'm doing that is each week we have different content. So I don't want to have all these different pages, multiple repeats or whatever in the same area. So I'll just call this module 2. And then underneath that, guess what? I'm going to right click on it and I'm going to choose a new file. So in this one right here, we'll just start off with index.html. And now it'll bring out some stuff here. Make sure that if you don't have live server set up, I would definitely recommend doing it. It's over here under extensions. You could type in live server like I have here. Mine's installed. If yours wasn't installed, it would say install. It only takes a few seconds. It just makes it easier from a development standpoint. You're using a local host versus old school. You had to go out to the site and double click on each of those files, and sometimes it could be a pain. So I'll go back to this. This is our Explorer here. So I know that we talked about boiler points. One thing about boiler points, they are easy to use. The problem is a lot of times it adds a bunch of content in there that doesn't exist if you're doing it from scratch. So you can tell right off the bat if someone's developing a website and they're like, oh yeah, develop this website is so awesome. You can look at the boilerplate and see that it was designed by Wix or designed by a third party or something like that. So sometimes they add a lot of content in there. Those sites that are doing stuff because they're doing it automatically. There's ways that you can write code that builds websites for you, and I think anyone in this class could do that. But it has to add other content to it, which makes it challenging. So we're just going to do something simple for now, and then we'll add to it. So if we did HTML, like we talked about, hopefully, is that big enough for you guys from, in the class?
Yeah.
All right. Yes, sir.
I'm having an issue with VS Code. I can't figure out how to close when it's open in Explorer. Like I have the wrong folder selected.
Let me get back to you. What you have an easier question in the back? Bigger. Okay. How about that? All right. Let's see.
Like I have the wrong folder selected. It's just another project here in Explorer. All I'm trying to do is close it so I can select the right one. It's not like a button up here for it though.
Well, I would just hide it for now and just move on to setting up a new folder. You still set up a new folder. You get the file and just do open folder.
Oh, thank you.
Just choose folder.
Yeah.
Do select folder. Once you got the folder.
There. Thanks.
All right, so everyone's able to see. So we're just doing something basic right now. So I'll just put title, and I'm gonna move this over for availability. I'll just put my first website, something simple. In addition to that, we have a heading, as I mentioned before. As soon as you type in heading, it automatically adds the ends. In the past, you had to type all that out, so it makes it easier. Oops. So usually what I like to do is put it horizontal, up and down. It makes it easier because I don't know where my heading is going to end at. And then I'm going to have a body. Same thing here. So I'm actually going to indent this over. And the key to this is trying to make it readable. As you see here, I'm just kind of indenting stuff in. And then within my body, so it makes it easier to see. So if I did H1 and maybe this is my first site. We have a heading. Maybe we have a paragraph underneath. And we have hello world, something funky. And so we have a body, and we have a heading. So as you see here, everything is, why is that on? You guys don't see that, that's good. So we just have something simple, nothing fancy to do. So let me take it out of that mode for a second so I can see it. Save it. And then if I right click on it, if you're using live server, you could just open live with live server. It will bring up something. All right, and here it is, my first website. Let me take all this out. So as you notice there, it's using 127.0.0.1 is localhost. 5501 is the local port that we have assigned to it. And as you see here, it uses the folder and index. So as you see, it did everything that we wanted to accomplish to the website. Nothing fancy with this. It's just to kind of start off with something simple to show you how simple that could be by using text space right here. Any questions around that? All right, class dismissed. I'm just gonna make good. All right, so that is the set up the basic information. Now, if we wanted to add some, I wanted to find my lecture notes here. I'm teaching. All right, there was a simple one I wanted to go through. I think this is it. Yeah.
They do have a question.
Yeah, go for it.
I was looking at the examples and they had the head before the body, and I looked on yours, the body's actually inside the head. Can you do it either way? Or?
No, you want to do heading, always heading first and the body is afterwards. So if you see that, go ahead.
Like right there, the body is inside the head.
No. See how the heading is there, head, and then it's in between it. So as you see here, the head's at the top and it has the slash head. That's at the bottom, and then the body is in between it. So when you do your heading, it's important to have it at the bottom with the when you have the backslash or forward slash, whatever. You want to make sure it's at the bottom. You don't want to have it like over here because it makes it challenging. And the body's always in between. It's the foundation. It's where everything lives at. Hopefully that answers your question. So what I meant is if you don't want to, you can't have heading here like this. I mean, you can, but oops, like that, because then everything has to be, it's going to get really challenging. So you want to have it structured the way that we have it set up here. Good question. Huh? Any other questions? Okay. All right, so I know, so what I'm gonna do here is we're gonna set up a new page. And this other page, we're gonna set it up plain, kind of like this. And then we're gonna add to it and we're gonna add CSS to it to change it up a little bit and go back and adjust it. So we'll just start off as a starter, and then we'll add some CSS to it and go from there. Just to show you like maybe we'll add another file or whatever. So we have a beginning and end phase. This is where Git comes in handy. All right, so I'll just create a new file. This file, I'll just call it home.html. And here we're just gonna do our heading or HTML stuff, simple stuff, our title, call whatever. I'll call it my second app. In this case, you can make it, you could have it, oops, you could have it space. It doesn't have to be together. And then, oops, I'm gonna put my heading here. And then put my body here. And you'll probably will justify this stuff later as time goes. Nope. All right. So now what we're going to do here is we're going to set up, later on we'll set up some stuff here, but right now we're just going to put UL for underline. And we're going to put, like set up a link setup. So like if we have links on our website, so we'll do hyper reference equals, maybe we'll just put pound home for now, like that. And then we'll call it home, and I'll explain what all this information here in a second. Not underline, I'm gonna do links. Wrong one. LI stands for link. What we're doing here is we're setting up anytime you set up a link somewhere, whether it's a website address or something locally, so you'll use a hyper reference, sorry, not sure why that's on there, a hyper reference. And then anytime you see a pound in the quotation marks, that always means local. So it's specifying something local, or if we had like a website address tied to that, like www.something.com, then we're calling it out to the web to go somewhere. And then this right here where we have home, that's what the user is going to see. So when we see it on a page, it will just show that link, and then it goes to wherever we specify home at. Later on, we'll learn other assets to that. So if I just save that for now, and I have to go out here. If I click on home, pull up live server. Well, you know what? I already have live server up. So I could just do this. Come here and do home.html. And it'll pull up my site. It looks a little wobbly because I'm using Zoom. I click home and boom, there it is. Nothing happens because we haven't specified where we want this pound home to go or whatever. There's no specification to it, but it's set up accordingly the way that we're doing it. All right. So now we're gonna do this multiple times. So if you like to type, be my guest. If you like to do a shortcut, I'll just copy that, paste it multiple times, and I'll change it around. I'll put photos. Other thing, I'll put classes, and then I'll put hobbies. And then I'll also want to justify this, as well. I'll just put photos, I'll put classes, and hobbies. Just save that. All right, so one of the things that we need to do here that we're missing is, since this is a list of items, LI, I said link, list of items, we need to start off with UL, and this starts the list of items. So need that here. And afterwards, oops. So you notice here how we're doing everything in dent because it makes it easier to see what the heck is going on. So I'm gonna go out to that page again, refresh it. Now I have them the way I want it, upside down, I mean horizontal, and a list of items with the. Now, does it look like it's just fancy? Heck no. We haven't did anything yet. We're just going to add a heading to this now. So I'm just going to put heading 1. You could call it anything. I'll just say this is awesome. You have to use the same thing I'm using. We'll also put a paragraph here, make it bold. So as you notice here, what I did is I did a P here. It's really slow. So when you do the P at the beginning, you have to have an ending. But if you want to put something in the ending in the middle, if you want to make it bold, if you want, in this case, we're using old school HTML. You want to put font sizes, colors, and whatever. It'll keep going in between, and it'll be kind of like this. Now, can we put them horizontally? Absolutely. But in this case right here, this is an example. Once you kind of get the trend of things, you'll figure out ways to save on space and what makes sense. And so you could put anything here. Maybe I'll put hello world. How are we? Something simple like that. Let me save this real quick. Go out and see if anything's different. Now it's automatically updated for us, so we don't have to refresh it because it's using the local server. Or if we were just going directly to the HTML, then it'd be different. So you know we have some content here. So now what we're going to do is, yes, sir.
I don't know if I missed it. What's the B stand for?
Bold. Yeah, so it should be bold. Now, if I took it off, saved it. Oh, okay, yeah, so it's not bold anymore. All right. All right. So one of the other things I didn't tell you yet is in other programming languages, everyone knows what commenting something out is, right? Someone want to remind me what it is because I forget.
It's normally 2 forward slashes.
Mm-hmm. Right. 2 forward slashes, or you could do a block 1. Now HTML is a little bit different. So you have to do a little bit different. You have to do the less than like that. And you have to do an exclamation mark and a bar or whatever, or minus. And then you could put something below here. So maybe reads div tags or something. So anytime you're using a tag in HTML, you have to set it up like this. Where the other way that you mentioned, you could do in all the other languages, HTML is a little different. Once you do the less than and exclamation mark and the minus, it automatically populates the other end for you. It should. All right. Any questions? If I'm running out of space, let me know and I'll make sure that we have space. So I'm gonna set up another heading here at the bottom. What I'm gonna do here for best purposes is maybe I'm gonna try to make this where we get it on up. It's fine. All right, I just want to make sure I'll have to piece it together. I'm just identifying where you guys can see it and you're not like you can see at the top versus getting in front of somebody. So heading 1, I want this at the end, not like that. All right. So what I'm gonna do differently here is I'm gonna specify the background color. So I could do BG color, for example, equals light blue. No, it should, and light blue might not be an option because remember, yeah, this won't work, but that's fine. I want to show you why it won't work. Light blue, and then I could say today is Taco Tuesday, and this is a challenge right here where everything gets jacked up. All right, so we have the BG color, we have the H1, so that should be right. I should be able to hit save. And it's Taco Tuesday, but it doesn't work. And there's a reason why, because it's, first of all, it doesn't recognize the command that I'm using outside of CSS because, you know, this is HTML. And so I gave it a command that it doesn't understand what I'm doing. So it accepts it, but either I'm colorblind or it looks like it worked. Actually, I lied to you. It doesn't work. I am definitely colorblind. So, or maybe not. I highlighted it. Okay, so I was gonna say, all right. I was ready to say, man, I really screwed that one up because it did work, but I highlighted it. So it didn't work because it doesn't recognize it. For a second there, I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. All right. But there's a whole reason to show you that. Now, if I wanted to say, come down here and do a paragraph, and maybe I want to do a font, like maybe font color. And I'll tell you why in something else in a second here. So if I do font color equals green, it should recognize that because, you know, whatever, it's green. And maybe I give it some type of other context. This is green, perfect. And then it should have our paragraph at the end here, which is fine. So now I'll just save it. And if you can see it, it does have green. It's really hard to see because it's way at the bottom. Obviously, we want to create the content a little bit bigger. But it does work for the most part. Let's see here. Let's put this in a div tag. And I talked about doing it, but I didn't. So, and we'll show you how this, so this BG color, the only way it'll work is once we get the CSS, we have to create a div tag. And within the div tag, we have to specify the color. And so what that basically means in a nutshell, is think about this. So, and this might help. So we have it set up as what we have set up as a H1, I think, heading 1. So if you have something set up as a heading 1, when you write something like say hello, right? What is your background on hello on any heading? Like if I go back over to this right here, which is today is Taco Tuesday, what's the background? White. So it really doesn't have a way to just kind of put a border around that and make that border whatever color you want because it won't recognize that reference. So if we made it BG color, then it's gonna make the whole background color that color, and that's not what we want. So when we get into CSS, we want to create a div tag, and within the div tag, we want to specify that color within a div tag. What a div tag does basically, it creates a box around it, like a hidden box that you don't see. And now we're like, oh, we could make that BG color do whatever we want it to be. Because basically all it's doing is it's applying the background color to that box. That's a hidden box that you don't see. You see it in the code, and that allows us to highlight that area, if that makes sense. When we get into other chapters, we start learning how to like hover over stuff. Then what we could do is we could, a couple things of what we could do, we hover over and make it like that color. When we get into editing forms and stuff like that, we could like have a form where, you know, somebody goes to enter a username and password. They forget to enter a password, they hit submit. We could automatically take that background, use a div tag and make it turn like a red or like a, not a dark red, but something light showing, hey, you're missing something, and pop up some jQuery message saying, hey, you forgot to enter this in, stuff like that. And we'll get into that later on, but this is kind of the beginning of the end. No end. All right, I said a lot. All right, so now let's go ahead and change that and just put the div up here for now. But later on we'll fix it. And hopefully you guys can see all this mumbo jumbo stuff still, yeah. All right. And then in a little bit. Cool. All right, so now we'll just close off that div tag. It's the only thing I don't like about it, how it does that. So it closes it. Now we'll create a new div tag like this. We could create a table. It talks about creating a table in your assignment. We'll put a table row, TR stands for row. And then if we put a TD like this, well, this is a row and this will be like column. We could put paragraph and we could put, I don't know, wow, trying to think of something there. 17th, 16th. All right, so we'll put January 6th. Actually, you know what? No, we'll put it that way. That's fine. So get real creative. We'll just put January 6th, 2022 for whatever purpose. And then we'll just put, I'll copy that, paste it. I'll put February. Then if we want to create another row, we just put this, oops, son of a gun. I would just highlight this, maybe. I would highlight this here and paste it here and change it around. Maybe I'd do March, April, something like that. So all I did was just, it's still within the same table. I wanted to create a new table, then I would do the same thing, create a new table. Now, what's this site? Is this going to be awesome? No, it's just something silly to kind of see how things are coordinated. So this is just kind of a lot of stuff. Now, as we get into this at the end, if we have time, we'll do it another way, but we'll have a folder, or not a folder, but a bar going all the way across. It has a more professional menu, but for now, this is just simple stuff, just to kind of get the hang of it. Any questions? What do you guys think? If you already did this, probably a lot more fancy here for those who have websites out there. Oh yeah, go ahead, sorry.
I just have a question about like the code itself.
Mhm.
I have spaces like in between, like making it, trying to make it look pretty, I guess you could say. Will that affect performance, like in the long run?
Not HTML. Yeah, for HTML, from an aspect of HTML, it shouldn't do performance. It's only like if you had backend code doing something, the backend was rendering the page, then maybe that would cause a problem. But only in that circumstance. If you had if you're generating something that the code was doing, like for example, to say that we're doing a website using, have you guys used handlebars yet? You guys had the web programming class? Okay, so if you're setting up a website using JavaScript, there's something called handlebars. It's .hbs, and it's kind of like HTML, but it's not. It's think of it as a placeholder for JavaScript code. Now that could be a little bit challenging, and it could cause problems with performance there because it's using code and it's driven off of JavaScript versus HTML. No one's had the web programming class yet. Oh, you guys are lucky, because the web programming class, well, I'm on record, so I don't want to talk about it. I'll say negative stuff. I'll just say there's good things to come. Forgot where I was at. All right, so now what we're gonna do here is, let me go back to my page here. And what I'm gonna do is, I'll keep this as is, as a placeholder, like, hey, this is my starting point. And I'm gonna create a new page so that we could go back to that and see how bad it was. So I'll just call this home_new. That's not the best site name, but whatever. I'm gonna zoom out for half a second here so I can see what I'm doing. I'm gonna paste in that code from home. I'm just gonna paste it back in here under home underscore. You could use the same thing. I just want to, since I'm not using GitHub in this exercise, I just want to have a new starting position. Sorry, I'm just justifying my notes. All right, so what I'm gonna do here is before I get into that is I'm gonna change this around like we had this. You know how like we had the heading right here. I'm gonna change this around a little bit, and I'm just gonna make this a heading 3. Change that off. I'm gonna take that heading 3 out of here because that, and then I'll just make that H3. I'll take that background color off there now. So right now we should just have this right here. I'll zoom in and for the problem. So we'll just do a heading 3 right here. And this is Taco Tuesday, simple. I will also get rid of this paragraph here. You know how like we had font color in here and specified it. I'll just put a hyphen, or I'll put the P down here, and maybe I'll put Mad Max is the place to go. For better places around here. There we go. Also in the div tag at the top, I'm going to put style up here, then equals, and within here I'll put background color. So you notice here right away that it starts typing. It's starting to use IntelliSense to start pulling information up because now it's like, oh, I know what I need to do here. So I'll do background color, and type. You know how it automatically puts the colon on there. You could easily choose one of these here that's in here, but if you don't like what you have there and you want to use something else, I could just start typing in light blue. And you notice right there, it's automatically there. You could, if you like pink, you could do pink. Let's go pink. I'll do pink just to be different. And then it closes it off like this for you. So now we have our div tag, and it should have today's Taco Tuesday. It should have background color. So if I save this and go out to, I'll have a different page now. Well, I could just do this right here. It'll pull up, maybe not. Before I tell you that, so when I went to module 2, you know how like normally during HTML you do module 2 and it lists all the folders under here. Can anyone tell me why it didn't do that? Can you tell me why it went just directly here? Go ahead.
Me?
Yeah, I thought you should go ahead.
Index file in the directory.
And what's the index file do?
It's the default, so it'll load that.
Right on.
No URL.
You're absolutely right. So it's the default of how it loads it. When you get into other programming languages and you learn MVC, and we talk about it later on, we'll talk about how the controller and routes modify the direction where things go. So it changes the whole philosophy of this up a little bit. But understanding what the original philosophy was makes it simple. So thank you for that. So I'll put home_new.html. And now you notice that we have Taco Tuesday. It is pink like we expected it to be because we use the div tag and it creates a hidden block for us, which allows us to look fancier. Like we know what we're doing. If I'm moving too fast, tell me slow down. We'll do that.
Yeah,
Abs-
we go behind, but-
Absolutely. How you guys doing now? You need more code or? All right. So that is basically a mimic of what we had before. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go to the top, which is up here, and we're going to go on our heading. And so now I'm just going to forget about that. I'm going to make some room so you guys can at least see what I'm doing. So now we're going to make some modifications up here. So first thing we'll do here is we'll type in a word style. And so it automatically creates another line. So we'll just have style underneath it. So in this lesson, we're just going to learn how to use CSS directly within HTML file. Not the right way of doing it. It's using that link relationship and setting up a file.css and calling it. That's definitely the right way of doing it. But for learning, I think this is a good start just to kind of get the understanding and see how things modify. And if things don't work, then we can figure out what's going on. So anyways, so now what we'll do is we'll reference body. So as you notice, it automatically references what we're talking about. So we'll do body, we'll do the bracket, which is the start of the program, and it ends it. And we could say, hey, we want the color. And you see here, you have all these different options. And this is what I mean about when you want to play around with it, you could modify it to your liking. I'm starting to like light pink, but I'm gonna go with light sea green. I say go with something that you like. So I set up my body to do that. And then you notice that, okay, that's the ending. We could add other information within here. It's never like if we wanted to add font size, we could do that. So you see these different options and we're like, hey, you know what, we want to make this medium, we could do that. If we want to do font color or font family, remember we've seen font family. So if you want to do Times New Roman or something like that. And the nice thing about it is it populates it for you where you don't have to remember all these different options. But for this, I'm just going to keep it with the color. We'll do that on other things, but I just wanted to kind of show you real quick. But the cool thing about playing around with it, you can do it however you want to do it. So heading 1, so H1, open close bracket. We'll do color. You guys do something different than me. I did, line might be difficult to see. Some of these might be difficult. So I'm gonna go with maroon since I know it's gonna be easy to see. Then the other thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do text align. So this is another thing I didn't mention about is way back in the day, well, back in the day, in the beginning of HTML, you use like things like called center. So you did open close, you did left, you did right, etc. Those are common ways to kind of justify things in the middle or over to the left or right. The problem with that is it could be challenging because it really causes some problems. So you remember you mentioned, Tyler mentioned about spaces. So you'd have to do spaces like NBSP, move it over, or all these different things that you had to do with it, made it difficult. So being able to use this to align it appropriately can make it easier. So in this case, I'll just put left. And then we'll do paragraph and we'll do color. And I don't know, I'm just making things up right here. I'll make it violet. And then after color for paragraph, maybe I want to choose a font style. And maybe I want to try italics. Then also maybe I want to do a font size. Maybe I'm thinking X larger. I want to make it big. Go home or go. How's that? Say go big or go home. I think that's how it goes. That'll be pretty big though. If I'm getting too far ahead, let me know. Well, before we go any further, I'm just going to save that and see what that looks like. So if we don't have anything that applies to that, which we do. So if you go to your site and reload it, you should see a lot of modifications. As long as you have a heading 1 and a paragraph, you notice that things look different. And that's only because it looks different is because we changed the CSS, the dynamics of it, to make it look different. Now you may choose something different than I did, and that's fine. I'm kind of going for that Valentine look, I guess.
Can you return to your code for just a second?
Absolutely. Yes, sir.
Yeah, mine broke, and I realized it was because I forgot that semicolon up into the line. So my question is, do you always need those at the end of a line in CSS?
Well, I will tell you this, take the semicolon off, save it and see if it works.
Yeah, that's broken. I found out that's what I did wrong.
And that's the key to it. The key to it is when you break something, that's how you figure out how to resolve it. And obviously, the key is to break it because it sets you up for knowing things to look for and reduce stuff. Because not all times like you have the opportunity to use an IDE. Like way back when, you had to just kind of look at it and say, okay, it doesn't work, and here's the problem. But you're right; it requires the semicolon, and the reason for that is it tells the program that, hey, I want you to execute it. If it's missing it, it doesn't know where to execute it. So if you've learned other programming languages like C#, Java, etc., you'll notice that those languages use the semicolon. That's the only reason to tell the program, hey, I want you to execute into numbers for the program itself. Any other questions? All right, so we have heading. Now this is only referencing whatever we have on the site, and these are only the things that we did. I'm just going to go down here for a second. So we have a list of items, so we could put something for a list of items that we don't have in there. And so we'll need something for UL. We'll need something for the LI. So this will all come together better. All right, so first thing I'll do UL, and I'll do like that. And here, this one, I'll do list style. Oops, like that. That's what I love about it. And then I'll just, I'm not gonna choose anything for the heck of it. I'm just gonna put none. You could choose something. The other thing is I'll use margin. Someone asked about margin. We could say, you know, we're gonna use a 0 margin. You could do an auto. Let's just say we're gonna do auto and see what happens. The next thing that we're gonna do is padding. So padding is the spacing around it. So I'm just gonna set it, you know what? I'm gonna set it to 0, like that. The other one is with the list items. Oops. List items, I'm gonna do a display. So how do you want it to display? I'll put it in block mode, which is kind of, think of it as the default mode. Then if I want to specify the width of it, usually a lot of people will do auto, or you could do the width. I'm just gonna do auto and see what happens. Play it. And then lastly is maybe we want to do the background color. We could do background color, and God knows what it'll look like. And I'll do Navajo white. Sounds like a musician. I'll save it. And I'll go back to the code in a minute, but everything's modified a little bit. Yes. Can I do what? Oh yeah, sure. Don? Oh, you can't see the bottom. Okay. I got you. How's that? Did everyone's page look somewhat decent, or whatever you did? I'm just gonna modify this because I had a lot of space in here on purpose so that we can see the screen. I'll later upload this to GitHub and send you guys a link. Yes, sir.
Kind of off topic, but if I change the name of my repo on GitHub, will I have to like initialize it again within like on my terminal? Or will it update like on my
Will you have to do what? I'm sorry.
So if I like go to GitHub and change the name of my repository, will I have to like initialize that again on Visual Studio?
No, it's, as long as it's the same location, it's just a different name, then it should be fine. Because what it'll do is it'll pick, when you go to commit to it, it'll pick up there's a modification and it'll apply it. So you should be fine.
But if I change the location of it, I'll have to.
If you change the location, you'll have to initialize again because it won't know what it is.
Okay.
All right. How'd everyone do? I'm making money. No one's buying this right here, but anyways, it's a start to something fancier. And the key thing here is like choosing the right element. Like if you're doing a website for someone, a lot of times they pick what they want it to look like. Sometimes you have to kind of step in there and say, you know what, the audience will like this a little bit more, etc. And for whatever reasons and so forth, whatever challenges come about. I'm gonna show you guys how to do one more thing. We're going to create a new page because this is going to reference a different CSS file that we're not going to build. We're going to use something that someone else did. That's the nice thing too is if you see something that's already out there, Google used to be a good trend of it. They would have stuff custom built for you and you could just grab it and use it. But the problem is I got burnt on that a couple of times. What happened is they modified their code around and then everything kind of flip-flopped and had problems. So I always recommend if you're going to make it a permanent thing, save it locally so that you have the original code. So that way, if that's how you want it to work, then fine. All right, so let's do this. A couple things is you'll need this if you go out to the Point Park module 2. I think I put the libraries out there, so I'll need them too. So I'll go to advanced programming and I'll go out to module 2 and I will grab, there is a thing called, I think it's requirements. Yeah, links to the web lab. There is these links right here that we'll need to use for our style sheet, our coding and so forth. So just FYI, it's out there already. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna set up a new site because I don't want to use this existing site because then if I use, one thing is you have to be careful. Yeah, sure. When you use multiple CSS files, it's hit it wrong, I don't care. All right, so this one right here, I'll create a new file, and maybe this one will be, I'll call it navigation. No, sorry for HTML stuff. A little bit different. So I'll do a title, and I'll just call it navigation. At the top here, what I'm gonna do here is I think I'm gonna be able to grab this. So I'm gonna go over here, the thing I have under requirements. I'm gonna grab this line of code right here and just copy it. And I'm gonna come back here and I'm gonna type in link. This is the thing that we've seen where equals, I'll put style sheet. And remember we had something afterwards. Remember I showed you how you could do text CSS, oh my God, text / CSS. We could also get away with not doing it either. So I'm gonna put hyperreference here. So I'm gonna put href equals, I'm gonna paste in that thing that I just grabbed from there and do this. I could dim it down a little bit. I know you can't see in the back, but so we did link relationship equals style sheet, hyperreference. I guess, right? Well, yeah, I was gonna say that might work too, because I might not know where to go. Now you notice it has code.jquery.com. So what I could do just to make sure it works, I'm gonna highlight that area, copy it. I'm gonna go out to that site. I'm just gonna paste it in there. It's sometimes good to see if it works. It should be a bunch of stuff that looks like it's in a different language, which is pretty cool. So at least if you get something like this, at least you know it's working. If it's nothing, it's white, then there's a problem. And this is good for debugging purposes as well. Everyone get that? What didn't you get? Okay. Okay. Well, I'll go on and I'll let you get to that. The other thing is we're going to have to put a script source, and this is going to be like a JavaScript. And I'll allow everyone to get back to this. So we'll do script source equals, same thing here. We'll do the up closer, and then we'll do an end for script like that. Oops. Oh my. Now we need to put some context in there. So if I come back over to here, I have this second one. I'm going to grab this. What this is when using jQuery, you have, compared to JavaScript, you have a library that you need to use. It references what the jQuery library is. Now, there's a bunch of different libraries out there, but this is a default one. And then I'll just put it in the middle here like that.
Still not working. What do you put at the end of the first link?
This one up here. It is quotation and then writer and then greater than. Yes, sir.
How do you not have a body tag? When I
I haven't got to that yet.
It gives me an error. It says
But we haven't got to that yet. Just do this right here.
So how do you get that thing with page level text on?
What do you mean? This right
The
here?
browser menu. You gotta change a bunch of like a different language.
Oh, okay. All I did was copy and went to make sure that there is code there and it works. It's
Oh.
yeah. This is just, it means nothing. It's
Okay.
it's just a way to identify that the link is active and it has something in it.
Oh, sorry. I thought that was local.
No worries. Yeah, code.jquery.com. I'll create the next one, and if you guys don't get it, I'll copy it out there and you could just copy it. But so this one will be kind of the same way. So I'll put source equals, and then I'll put at the end of the shell, I'll just do this. And then if I come out to my site and grab my third link, copy it, I'll just paste it in here. Oops, like that. There we go.
That's the link under second script that we're copying.
Yep. So I'm actually gonna save you guys some time here. I'm gonna copy that. I'm gonna come out to here. Page. You know what? Let me just create a new one. I'll put it out here. So if you didn't get it, if you go into Point Web or Point Park School, you could do code in class. You could just copy all this and put it into your code, which is just this right here. So all we're doing here is a couple things. We're using a link relationship, which is a CSS that's done somewhere else. We're setting up the script source, which is identifying the jQuery library. And if you see at the bottom below that, it has a different one called Jquery Mobile. So what that means is it's a different it's a different library that references it for a mobile interface. If we want to utilize any of those elements for a mobile aspect, we can.
Okay.
Yep.
Why do we have a double slash on the first two, but the third one doesn't have that at the beginning?
You could put it there. I didn't need to. It'll still work.
It just means current.
The current directory it's at. I should have it there for consistency. Another thing I left out is how some of you guys picked up on it was I missed my heading. Now we'll start the body. I'll move on a little bit here for purpose of time. Okay. Let's see if I could copy some stuff here that we could use from before. All right, we'll just start off with this. So we're going to create a div tag like this. And this div tag is going to use, so we're going to use some stuff in here without actually, I just know this from looking at the library, but you'd have to look at the library and understand what methods are in place. But we're going to use something called a data role that's already embedded in here. So if I do data hyphen role, this is something that's in the CSS that we could reference. So what you could do to understand how these things work is you could grab the CSS, you could, we pulled on the page, the CSS I think was kind of all over the place. But if you use a editor, you could grab that editor and make it look a little bit more legible, and then you can identify how things are set up. It makes it easier once you roll through it. So they have a div in there set up, and this div is called data role. That'd be like if we're setting up our own CSS and we had something called data hyphen role, and then we had something in between it, then that would reference something specific. Hopefully that makes sense. We'll do equals, and then we'll do page, because that's how they have it referenced. And we'll do ID equals page 1, like that. And then this div tag will be closed later on. So what we'll do here is I'm just gonna put it down here and we'll get back to it. So I can zoom in a little bit. So we have div, the divider. Div tag is data role equals page, and then ID equals page 1. I'm gonna indent a little bit again, and I'm put another div tag, and this one's gonna be data role with header. So data role equals header. Are we having fun yet? Or I'll take that as no. And then heading 1, I'll put Point Park CS. For you guys to catch up.
about data role again? You said it's for like debugging.
Well, data role is, you know how like when we set up the CSS, we had a P and then we had a squiggly bracket. So when they use their CSS, they set up a section called data role. So what we're doing is I went into CSS and looked at the code before, so I understand what's in there. But if it's the first time that you're doing it, you would open up the CSS, pull it up and say Visual Studio, and look and say, hey, this is data role. I could use it for X, Y, and Z. We're just utilizing an existing CSS. That's all we're doing here. So just think of it as a subsection that they have set up in their code. So it's not our code. Yep. So the first thing we did is we did data role equals page. We gave it a specific for page one. One of the things that I noticed here, I need to have this or I close my div tag. Other thing is we have like a sub paragraph here called div data role equals header, which now we're using think about when we were trying to highlight the div tag before to make it pink. We set up think of it as hidden box, and then within that box we put a heading one for Point Park CS or whatever you called it. And then I would do another one, and this one would be welcome to the site or whatever. So I'll copy this, we'll modify it a little bit. I'll explain why. So I'll paste that. This will be, we'll still use that data role, but we can't call header because header exists. So we have to give it another name. So I'll call it main. The other thing that's going to be different here is I'm going to set up a class. So if you remember in the lecture aspect of it, you could set up, you know, like it had like h1.important or something like that. In order to do something like that, you have to specify a class. So that's what we're doing here. So we're setting up a class, and we'll call it UI content, like that. And we're just setting up that class called UI content. Oh, hopefully you guys can see it. That's the problem about zooming in and out. It could be dangerous. Difficult. I also will change this to welcome back students. All right, so we're also needing a div tag to close here because we have a div tag here. We have one here, but we're missing one here for some reason. And the beautiful thing about this is if you mess something up, guess what? It's a recording. You can go back and have fun later. While you do that. All right, so I'm going to set up another div tag because we're just building this site out a little bit. And we're going to be able to copy and paste some stuff here in a minute, which is going to be the fun part. We're going to set up another div. And another thing is I probably would, if I'm doing this for the first time, I'm probably going to put some comments in here and say, this is for the header. So that way, if someone's coming in and doing the code for the first time, we're like, hey, what the heck is this guy doing? Like that pickle story I told you guys about. This is the main section. And then maybe I'll set up another one. And this one would be, we'll call it the footer. So this one's going to be a little bit different. So I'm going to indent in. I know that we're probably running out of real estate, aren't we? Yeah, let me hit enter here. Let me ask you this. Does anyone need any code up here before I do that? You go to chiropractor often?
Me?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Is it like a weekly ritual or
likely every 2 weeks.
every 2 weeks? Yeah, I knew I'd have to go to chiropractor eventually, but I go to one usually when I have a problem, but usually once a month, but like sometimes a couple times a week. I went to one today. They usually have a whole thing. It takes like an hour to get to it, but when I leave there, I feel like I'm like amazing, and then like 2 days later, I'm like, what did I do?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The end of code line 4.
Yep.
Can you just scroll over that first one? Just want to make sure I'm not missing anything. Okay. Just want to make sure I close that one.
All right, so I'm gonna do the footer extra section here. So I'll put make some real estate to you guys. Let's see. So we'll do a div tag. And this one right here, we'll still use the data role like we've been using, but we'll call this one the footer. And then we'll set up another div tag. And once again, data role, shocker. And we'll call this one the nav bar or navigation bar. And then this part where we could do, yeah, whatever. In here, I could put a, I'm going to go back over to my old code. We had the UL for the list items. I'm just going to copy all this code here in the code that we did before. And I'm gonna go back to navigation and I'm just gonna paste it in here. I mean, unless you want to type it out, be my guess, but if you want to save time, probably do something like this. So we have our list of items, we have it in there. We should have 3 div bars at the bottom. See, I see one here. So this one right here should represent this. I'm doing this for stupidity on my part, so I usually mess this up. Nav bar. This one should represent, I think, the footer. Then we should have another one that represents the page, which concerns me why I don't see it here. But I'll put it here. If it's too much, we'll fix it. So this represents the page. And then maybe it's in there. Oh, okay. So it was in there. I had it way at the bottom. So, all right. Now I'm not so concerned. Let me go up here. So our footer has footer role, which is boom right there. Then in between that, we have the nav bar, and then we have the page view. So I'm gonna go over here real quick. I'll come back. Oh, I'll come back to that in 1 second. I'm just gonna see if it works. All right. Okay, it worked. So I clicked on home. It highlighted blue or whatever color I chose, photos, classes, hobbies. Sweet. Go back to the code. So it did work. It's nothing fancy, but it's a good start. Play around with it. It just means the code's wrong.
Like shows up, but it's not files. Like I don't have the part. But mine also didn't work when I just had here, like when we did the Jquery.
Okay, so
Nothing showed up in my.
So one of the things is make sure that your script source and your link relationships are correct. So what I would do is if you use what we hear and try to type it in, maybe block lines 4 through 6 out, grab the code that I put out on the Schoology and paste it in there, refresh it and see if it works. If it works, then you could look at what you typed in wrong in the relation. That'll be a good way to start with the debugging purposes.
It's the one I pasted in.
Okay, so that's good. And if you pasted it in, you grabbed it from the same thing I have in there, we see that it worked on the screen, then it has to be something else that's missing. And the best thing to do is just kind of go from the top, work your way down.
You're gonna post this file after class.
Maybe, depends on how much you're paying. I'm kidding. I don't accept money from students. I'll put that on record. Yes, I will post it.
So I commented out all of my code like after the padding.
Okay.
Yeah. Nothing shows up.
So I just added navigation.html. That's the code that I just did. Maybe download that and do a screen comparison to see what you might have missing. Yep. I'm gonna stop the screen sharing for this because we've gone through our last exercise just to save space.